Hey there, in this first unit, we're going to be learning how to convert between fractions, decimals, and percents. I'm going to show you examples for each one of these, and then we'll be applying them in class. The first one we're going to look at is how to convert a fraction to a decimal. In order to do this, we're going to divide the numerator by the denominator, and this will work every single time to change any fraction into a decimal. So a couple of examples. If I have 4/5 and I want to change that to a decimal, I'm going to divide 5 into 4.0. So when I go into divide this, 5 will go into 40 8 times, and it zeroes out, which means that 4/5 is equivalent to 8/10. It will also work with a mixed fraction. So if I had 2 and, let's do one that we know, 2.5. Okay, I can go ahead and just work with the fraction part. So I can go 2 divided into 1.0 and get 0.5, and then I just bring my unit spot over. So 2.5 is equivalent to 2.5. For the next one, we have a decimal to a percent. Again, let's work with one that we know. If I have 5/10, hopefully we know that that is 1/2. My rule says to move the decimal point 2 places to the right. Well, I move it over once. There's an automatic 0 there, so I move it again. So 0.5 is equivalent to 50%. If I have, let's say 13.68, I can move this also the exact same way, move the decimal point 2 places to the right, so 1, 2, and this becomes 1,368%. I know that seems like a large number. Some of us don't quite understand that you can get more than 100%, but there's a good example, and we'll talk more about that in class. For the percent to a decimal, you're just undoing what we just learned. So let's look at 75%. Okay, if I change 75%, right now my decimal point is behind the 5. So I move it 2 places to the left, and it creates 0.75. Now let's say I have 125%. Once again, my decimal is behind the 5. So I move it 2 places to the left to create 1 whole and 25 hundredths. Moving on to converting a percent to a fraction. If I have 85%, well, first of all, we need to remember that percent means per 100. So we're going to take the number that's attached to the percent, and we're going to put it over 100 and reduce. And we obviously don't need the percent sign anymore since we have converted that into a fraction. So I have 85 over 100, and then that will reduce. We can divide both of those by 5. And 100 divided by 5 is 20. And then 85 divided by 5.
Hey.
Okay, hang on just a minute. Is 17, which will not reduce anymore, so we get 17 over 20. Okay. All right, let's do one more of those. If we have, let's see, let's go 25%. 25% will go 25 over 100. Reduce, and you get 1/4. Moving on, let's look from a decimal to a fraction. The rule for this is to write the fraction of the decimal as it is said correctly. And this is a hard one to understand just by reading that sentence. But what we're going to do if we take, let's say for example, 0.15. Well, you don't really say 0.15. The correct way to say this is 15 hundredths. So we put 15 over 100. You'll also notice that the number of zeros that you have in your denominator is dependent on how many numbers or digits you have behind your decimal place. Once we are at this spot, then you can reduce. Both of these are reducible by 5. So we change that to 3/20. So 15 hundredths is equivalent to 3/20. Let's do one more of those. If I have 2.3, well, 2.3 isn't the exact way you're supposed to read that. You should read that as 2 3/10. And that won't reduce anymore. So you're done with that one. The last one, a fraction to a percent, there are actually two methods that you can use. The first method is to convert the fraction to the decimal, which we have learned to do up here, and then convert that to the percent, which we did in the second one. Okay, so if I have, let's go 3/10. Okay, 3/10 converted to a decimal would be 0.3. From there, you go and use this top rule, and you move it 2 places to the right, so 1, 2, which becomes 30%. We could use another one. Let's say we have 2/5. Okay, let's say you don't know off the top of your head what 2/5 is, so you can go divide it, 5 into 2.0, you come up with 0.4. Well, move the decimal 2 places to the right, and you create 40%. So we've changed 2/5 over to 40%. The second method on converting a fraction to percent is to set up a proportion. If you're not familiar with a proportion or you don't exactly remember how to do the proportion, hopefully this will get you acquainted with that. Let's use this same logic right here, this same example. So we're going to start out with 3/10. We create a proportion with a denominator of 100. And the reason we create a denominator of 100 is because we're changing it to a percent. And if you'll remember, the definition of a percent is a number per 100. Okay, so from here, you can solve this proportion one of two ways. You could cross multiply, or you could realize that 10 goes into 100 10 times, and then multiply the top by 10, and you come up with 30. So 30 out of 100 is 30%. Let's use this same example. If I have 2/5, again, I'm going to set up my proportion with a denominator of 100. Now, let's say I didn't realize that 5 went into 100 20 times, so I'm going to cross multiply. So I'm going to get 5x equals 200, and then I'm going to divide by 5. And when I divide by 5, I get x is 40. So if I get 40 over 100, I get 40%. So you can see either one of these methods will give you the exact same answer. Okay, that's all we've got for today. When you come back to class, we will be learning how to apply all of this material. Feel free, if you get stuck or you're not real sure how to do something, you can always look back at this video. I will see you soon.